Hey guys, how are we doing? Second time live today. Don't know if anybody saw me this morning. I'm trying to rearrange myself to look as unfat as possible. Hey Peter, how you doing? I was actually going to give you a call today. Are you? Where are you? Are you in England or? Well, I mean, I guess you must be in England. When did you get back from America? Hey Paul, good evening. The wine is back. I lasted 1 day without a drink. So I've got wine. I've got no Ritz crackers tonight. We'll just wait for a couple of people to jump on before I start talking much. And are you back in the UK? You got back last week. Cool. I will. Hey Paul, I'll give you a shout tomorrow, Peter. Actually, I've got a couple of bits I want to talk to you about. So I will give you a bell then. If anyone's missed these lives, by the way, or does miss them, they've started going up on my YouTube channel as of yesterday or the day before. So use that as a lesson in repurposing content and getting the most out of your content, so that you can get on more platforms quicker. Because I know a lot of people complain that they haven't got time to devote to LinkedIn, or they haven't got time to use Facebook because they're too busy learning Instagram. 90% of what I post, I manage to repurpose from one or two key pieces of content. I think obviously every platform has its own nuances, and you can't. I mean, what I'm not a fan of doing is linking two platforms together. For example, linking Instagram with Facebook and posting the Instagram post and automatically posting it across to Facebook. I'd be lying if I said I never did it. I mean, I certainly do it on my Insta story and Facebook story. But for the little extra bit of time it takes, I think it's important to understand the nuances of each platform, to understand how it's best to lay out a message, how people like to communicate best on there. So definitely give that some consideration. But yes, try and reuse the same content as much as you can. Like I said, obviously I do this live now, and I export it and bang it into YouTube. If I do a master video, which I'll put on YouTube, I strip the audio off it and turn it into an iTunes podcast. What else? And we'll then cut it down into mini IGTV clips. We'll then cut it further into just Instagram clips, and then put it on, repurpose it for LinkedIn and stuff as well. So yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Matt. I'm very good. Thank you. Nice to see you. You've jumped on again. Well, listen, we'll do a bit of talking anyway. I've got my little notes, my prep for us for tonight. I was going to tell you just a couple of things that I've been up to today, because I think, again, it gives some context and relevance to Corona. One thing is I got repaid on a loan today. Not a big loan, but a loan that I made last week to someone. Literally on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. It was someone that was known to me already, but I tell the story in the context of the fact that there is still business to be done out there. But whatever sector you're in, I think there's definitely still business to be done. Obviously, maybe not in the leisure sector, in the hospitality sector, other than marketing, as we talk about every day. But I mean, even in the finance business for me, where we are, pretty much ground to a halt. I mean, we're lending very, very little, just because I don't believe that I can work out where the bottom of the market is. Or the bottom of the Corona market. So I'm waiting for the world to show me that, rather than me guessing. But if you look carefully and you are sensible about it, there is still deals to be done. I also had a chat with a friend of mine, a guy who was looking for a loan. Not a huge loan, but he was a friend of mine who was looking to borrow a small bit of money, and for various reasons it just wasn't right for me to do it. But I wanted to help him where I could, and we got into having a conversation about his existing loans. And he wanted to borrow money for two reasons. He genuinely needed a little bit of extra money to do a deal, but he also wanted to borrow some money to repay 3 existing loans he's got. And he wanted to do this for no other reason than the fact that he would rather have one payment to one person as opposed to three payments to three different people. And that is where the beginning and end of the logic went, really. So we got into talking about the fact of a few things, and I think it's very much changed his way of thinking. So I thought I'd share it tonight, which is that having three payments or one payment is nothing more than a psychological difference. And if anything, particularly in this market, I would personally rather have a relationship with three different lenders rather than just one. Obviously, if something goes wrong with one, it still leaves the flexibility with the other two. Obviously now we're all getting our cash constrained. So if you can't make one payment, there's a fighting chance you'll be able to make the other two. Whereas if you've only got one lender to lend to, then one lender that you're borrowing from, then of course you pay them all or nothing, and you're risking burning your bridges there. The other thing we got into talking about that this guy hadn't done is he hadn't spoken to any of his existing lenders about getting a payment holiday. And I mean, this is something I've been talking about with people, and something Paul Cheetham did a fantastic presentation on a Zoom conference we did on Monday. But everybody, every business owner and every person in their personal financial life at the moment should be looking at every possible outgoing they've got and how they can cut it down. And loans to mainstream lenders, your mortgage, etc. These are all fantastic. Well, not fantastic, so the wrong word to use in these circumstances. But these are all very easy things to be cutting, to be getting some kind of holiday, some kind of deferment on. And obviously, what I explained to him was if he got himself a 3-month deferment on each of these three loans, then it just about created enough money for him to buy the thing he wanted to buy without having to borrow the money from me. So I mean, obviously that's that's a bit cheeky. It's not really the name of the game of why people should be getting genuine payment holidays. But I just wanted to tell the story in the context of creativity, and that there's always more than one way to skin a cat. But yeah. So anyway, so today's competition, obviously every day we've got a £100 Corona cash competition, and today's competition was about sacrifice. And I posted a video, a little snippet from a video that I filmed with a girl called Michaela Richardson a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago now. And Michaela, she's I think she's 25, 26, and Michaela created a business. She dropped out of uni and she created a business called Free the Fresher. I don't know if any of you guys are UK students there, but if you are, you may have come across it. And her business idea kind of came out of her own pain, her own problems in the past, which was the inability to afford things when she was at uni. And I don't know the full ins and outs of what she does, but effectively she has cheap things to students. So I think you can sign up on a subscription basis, or you buy one of her packs, and you get a duvet, and you get vouchers, and you get all the things that you need as a fresher, as a student. You get it very cheap. And she has grown that. She's grown that from a standing start when she dropped out of uni to a £2 million turnover in the last 4 years. And the clip that I posted from the video was her talking about how if you're going to start up a business, you've got to be prepared to work your arse off, and that she did nothing but work 24 hours a day for 6 months, and that's what other people need to do. And it got us on to talking obviously about the importance of hard work, the importance of sacrifice, although I did caveat that with her by saying that really working 6 months, she had it lucky, and if anyone saw the video, you'll have seen she acknowledged that afterwards and accepted that 6 months really wasn't a long time in the grand scheme of things. But so I asked you guys what things you'd sacrificed, what sacrifices you've made to achieve what you've achieved today, or what sacrifices you're prepared to make to achieve. I also said that I think the sacrifices people say they're prepared to make and the sacrifices that they really do make, or whether or not they make it in the end, are probably two very different things. Paul Devine, I don't know if he's still on here, but he was there at the beginning. Paul talked about sacrificing a work-life balance and felt that he didn't spend enough time with his family, and basically put his time into a job for a company that would drop him in a second should it come to it. And it's an interesting one, work-life balance, and it's something I get asked about a lot. It's something I talk about. I've written my blogs and things on. And my personal view on a work-life balance is certainly that there's no right answer, and I don't know if you can ever balance it right, because I think you balance it as it suits you. I personally don't look at my life and say I have any balance. I'm always happy in the day, in the moment. Listen, okay, I can't always obviously do what I want to do, but I think that when I've wanted to work, I've been happy doing the work. When I've wanted to see my daughter or see my friends, etc., I've been able to see them and been able to do it. And I think for me the difference comes in. I think you only really think about the balance equation if you don't love every aspect of your life, of your job, of what you do. And because I genuinely love the work I do, I genuinely love all the businesses I'm involved in, all the stuff I do. I never look at it that I need to balance anything, if that makes sense. When I work every single day. I work on Christmas Day. Again, people who know me will know that my birthday's on Christmas Day. Hey Reese, how you doing, buddy? I got an email about you today. We'll definitely catch up tomorrow, and I'd definitely jump on that podcast. I think it was the 1st of April we talked about it, but definitely do that. Good to hear from you. Just talking work-life balance. So my birthday's on Christmas Day, and I even I sit on my laptop doing my work on Christmas Day, and that's not because I'm trying to be clever. I'm trying to work hard. It's because that's what I genuinely enjoy doing. Obviously, again, anyone who knows me or anyone who follows me on here knows I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and I love to spend as much time with her as possible. But I'm also realistic to the fact that she's a 13-year-old girl who wants to see a horse, wants to see her friends, and really how much time does she actually want to spend with her dad? And I can say, oh well, I need a work-life balance, so I've got 5 hours a night to spend with my daughter and 12 hours every Saturday and 12 hours every Sunday to spend with her. But the reality is, she's going to be bored to tears with me during that time, and I'd rather make my time work so that I can do that. I can make it count when I'm with her, if that makes sense. So I think going back to the original comment on work-life balance, I think if you find happiness in all the areas that you're doing, you'll never need to find balance, because I think when you're trying to look for balance, it's because you're not happy in some of the certain areas. You're either not happy in your job or you're not happy in your relationship. But obviously this is a business conversation, a business podcast, and I guess we talk in the context of the work-life balance. So for me, the answer is to make sure you've got work, you've got a job, you've got a business that you truly love. Hey Alex, how you doing? Hey Lord of Cheshire. I think as well, anyone who was on last night watching my podcast, watching my live with JP de Villiers, he talked a lot about how you need to feel successful and be happy and content before you kind of worry about making the money, because if you're only going to feel successful when you've made a level of money, or when you've got something materialistic, by the time you then achieve that, you're then going to want something more, and ultimately you're never going to be happy. And I think that was obviously a very important and telling comment in the context of last night's conversation. I think that fits into the work-life balance as well. I also wanted to talk about allocating capital correctly, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as someone looking to start a business. Martin Heath, he says he sacrificed by giving up a suburban 4-bedroom house so that he could live in a 2-bedroom flat, so that he could grow his business. I think that's that's something super important for people to get their heads around. And I speak to and see so many capable business people or capable potential entrepreneurs who never take the steps and the risks that they need to do to start their business or to grow their business. Because they're more, well, for one of two reasons. Either they're more bothered about the tangible trappings around them to try and look impressive, and they therefore they don't have the capital to invest in the business because they're spending their income on shite that they don't need, or they're not prepared to risk the capital. And I heard a quote from someone which I can't remember, so I'll end up completely butchering it, but it was very much along the lines of the fact that people aren't prepared to take one step backwards, in wealth or in perception of wealth, in order to take two steps forward. And I think that's true of so many people. But I also think it's important to understand where to allocate capital correctly. And this and Martin's comment just made me think about a conversation I was having with somebody yesterday. And and again, people who know me, I'll have this conversation with. But if you don't know me, a lot of people are always surprised to learn that the house I live in, or the apartment I live in now, and my apartment in Spain are both they're both rented accommodation. I rent this and I rent my place over there, and I tell this in the context of. I think for me, there's a massive ego thing around property ownership. And for me, I see it as a complete dead use of my capital. Now, I'm not saying never ever own your own house, and if you can borrow pretty much all the money to buy that house, and you can you do that at a very cheap rate of money, then very cheap rate of interest, it's obviously worth considering, or should be done rather. But when I look at my property, particularly my property in Spain, if I was to let's just pick a figure for the sake of this conversation, if I was to tie up £500,000 in a property in Spain or in a property in England, then that's £500,000 I can't invest in my business. And as a business owner, I believe that I can comfortably earn 25, 30, 35% return on my capital each year, as a bare minimum, if not more. And for most of you guys watching this, whatever area of business you're in, if you're not looking at being able to try and achieve those levels of return on capital, then there is probably some fault in your business model. But for me, the way I look at it is, why would I want those vast chunks of money tied up in an asset when I can be using that money to invest in my businesses, to invest in new businesses, to grow businesses. Using that figure of 500 grand, if you have a 500 grand property, then in the UK to rent that property, that might cost you 25 grand a year, let's say. But if I've got 500 grand of capital available to me to use, then I can earn 125, 150 grand a year, stood on my head really. So for me, owning a property is actually costing me money and giving me no benefit whatsoever, other than the ego factor of saying I own my own house. And I think this, the same thing applies with cars. I mean, one of the cars I drive at the moment is a Range Rover Evoque, which I actually rent. It's almost like a rental, like a long-term 12-month rental. It doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever. Nobody even knows that it's rented. But I think you've got to get your head around the fact that, do you want to own something, or do you want to use it? And I think this is a concept which I believe will change more and more as time goes on, because it already happens in the corporate world. More and more people are in serviced accommodation now, serviced offices as opposed to long-term leases, or they're in long-term leases as opposed to being freeholders. And I think businesses are getting more and more more and more conscious of how they use their capital, and how they deploy it. And it's much more important to actually get use of something than it is to have it sat on your balance sheet, whether that's your business balance sheet or your personal balance sheet. So I hope that makes sense to you. What else have people said? Patrick Parker says he sacrificed nothing. What's before we go into that? What's Peter saying? Peter says, absolutely. I rent the house I live in, and I own a property I rent out and make money on. 100%, Peter. I mean, like I said, a lot of people will say, oh well, if you don't own your house, then where's your exposure to the property market to be able to make the capital gain? But as long as you've got exposure to property in some way, shape or form, then you're achieving that anyway. So whether that's by owning commercial property, by owning properties you rent out. Ultimately, all you need to do is have that roof over your head that you're comfortable with, or drive that car that gets you from A to B and makes you happy. You don't need anyone watching this is a business owner or a wannabe entrepreneur or interested in my commentary on business advice. And my advice to everyone always is to have as much availability of capital as possible to be able to put into the projects that you are dealing with. Patrick Parker says he's sacrificed nothing. He's just challenged himself and jumped on opportunities. I actually replied to his message. I wasn't being funny with him. I was just asking him if he actually regretted not sacrificing anything, and if he's happy with where he's ended up at the minute, or if he wished he'd made some sacrifices along the way. He's not replied to me, so I don't know what the answer is. But whether or not he's happy, he does make a valid point that you regardless of sacrifice, you've always got to be ready to jump on opportunities when they present themselves. And I guess that's another reason, tying it in with my last comment, why it is so important to have capital available when these opportunities present themselves, to be able to take advantage of that. So if you've got unnecessary amounts of equity tied up in a property, and you are a retailer, for example, and a stock package comes along that you can't buy, or you're whatever, you write computer software, and another computer software business comes along to buy, and you're not able to jump on these opportunities because you've got your capital allocated in the wrong place. So, and I'll keep hammering over on the same point, but it's just something that is so important. That is so important to me and should be so important to you guys. Dave Williams says he sacrificed a negative attitude, and Edwin Towns says he sacrificed an extended family because you were always tapping him up for cash. Hey Dan Healy, how are you doing, my friend? You know what, I keep meaning to jump on one of your lives. I see you've been you're playing music on your lives, aren't you? Are you playing your new album on there? I will definitely, if you're going to do another one soon, I'll definitely come on. And I was also going to drop you a message because at some point in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I want to do a bit of a charity night live for our foundation. And I was going to speak to you and Brian and a few of the other boys to see if we can find a way for us to do a bit of music, tell a few jokes, and put some kind of concert on for people while everybody's stuck at home, and raise a bit of money for the charity. So I'll probably give you a call about that. But I'll definitely jump on your live on Friday and listen to your music. And for anyone else who's listening now and has seen Dan's name pop up there, Dan is an awesome musician. I met him originally at one of Ronan Keating's things, because Dan is Ronan's guitarist when they go travelling together, and they've also written some music together. So if you like that kind of music, then you'll love Dan. But he also does some of his own stuff as well. So definitely check him out. So Dave Williamson gave up a negative attitude, and Edwin Towns gave up his extended family because he were tapping him up for cash. I guess they weren't tough sacrifices to make, but they are certainly things that need excluding from your life, whether you're a business person or a business owner, a one-man band entrepreneur, or just someone looking to have a better life. Negative attitude, and listen, I'm certainly no expert on it other than the simplicity of knowing that a positive attitude is always going to get you further than a negative attitude. But anyone who was watching JP last night talk about positivity and certainty, we'll see in spades how much difference that makes. I mean, JP was a guy on death's doorstep, an elite athlete, stuck in a hospital bed, who 12 months on still has not had enough surgery to be able to allow him to even run properly, never mind live the active life he was living before. And you've never seen a more positive, smiley guy ever. So positive attitude, absolutely essential. And Edwin talks about obviously how he sacrificed his extended family because he were tapping him up for cash. I mean, obviously that's a situation somewhat unique to him, but definitely cutting the people out of your life who drain you in some way, shape, or form, whether that's financially and giving nothing back in return, or negativity, bad vibes, putting you down, not believing in your mission and your dreams, definitely need cutting. Marissa has sacrificed using social media, especially Pinterest. She says, well, I don't specifically know what she was sacrificing, but rather than sacrificing it totally, I think she should certainly have changed its use to make sure she was using it for a positive purpose and promoting and growing her businesses. Pinterest is something that I've never used myself. I keep meaning to have a little play with it because I'm involved with a retail business at the moment, luxury clothing, luxury shoes, and I believe Pinterest is the platform for that, and I still haven't got around to using it yet. But if anyone on here knows Pinterest, then drop me a line. I'd love to hear more about it. And Emma Louise Manning sacrificed time to make her dreams happen. And I guess that really very much goes back to the fact that we've all got to be realistic about how much time and commitment any of our goals are going to take. Whether it's business, sport, hobbies. To be great at anything takes huge amounts of time. So I hope that all made sense. I hope some of you you've all got something from that. But for me, work-life balance. You only need to worry about if you don't like your job. So make sure you like your job or you love your business. And I think as well, now is the time where a lot of you guys who are watching this or be listening to this over the time it's up there have potentially either lost your job or are certainly struggling for money, have maybe been furloughed, and now really has to be the time that you sit at home and ask yourself, do you really want to go back in 2 or 3 months' time to a job that you hate that much? A job that you don't love going to, and I don't think you certainly don't have to own your own business to love what you do. I know lots and lots of people out there who are employees on the ladder and will be employees on the ladder for the rest of their lives, but they absolutely love what they do. They love the boss they work for, or they love the company that they're within, and I just think it's so important to be happy in that area. It's such a huge part of your life and your time, and everything else stems from there. But I'm sure you all want to get to tonight's competition winner. And I tried to use that bloody app which worked for me yesterday and didn't work the day before and has failed for me once again today. So unfortunately we had to go back to the old school and manually pick our winner. But today's winner is a regular face on these lives. He's a regular face on my Instagram comments, etc. And he's a guy I met who won an original competition a few months ago when I took some people to the NEC. So I'm pleased to say that Matthew Parks, if you're still on there listening, Matthew Parks, you are tonight's £100 winner. So drop me a DM, send me your PayPal details, and I will make sure £100 is winging its way to you for our Corona Cash Crisis competition. Chantel, who won last night, I can't remember her name. I'm going to say Caitlin Stevens. I think her name. I'm sure her Instagram handle was I'm Caitlin Stevens. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was that. If you were listening to last night, anyone else who was listening last night, I think it was Caitlin Stevens. But don't worry, Chantel. There is a winner every day. I have paid all but one person just so I can never be criticised. Somebody won 3 days ago, and he doesn't have PayPal, and he wants me to send some money to his far off bank details, which I haven't had a chance to be able to do yet. So that's why I say I always do it on PayPal. But there's a winner every day, and everybody gets paid as long as you've got PayPal. Right, guys, I'm going to go back to my wine. Thanks all for joining in. Thanks for listening. I hope you all get to take some stuff from tonight's live and all the other lives. Keep checking with my story as well, because I've enjoyed doing the live with JP last night, And if any of you saw this morning, I did one with Caprice, which wasn't particularly business related, but was more it was more conversational between me and her. But I've got some pretty, I've got some familiar faced friends that I'm sure a lot of you guys would know from the media, and they're all a bit of fun, and they've all got some stuff to talk about. So I'm going to start bringing them in over the next few weeks. Keep looking back, keep checking. Thanks a lot for coming. Thanks Johnny. Thanks Paul. Thanks Dan. And yeah, I'm going to go. And thanks Peter. I'm going to go back to my wine. Congratulations Matthew Parks, and I will speak to you all tomorrow.